Reykjavik is not the kind of city most people expect before visiting Iceland. It looks small on the map, and many travelers use it only as a base for waterfalls, glaciers, lagoons, and the northern lights. But once you arrive, you realize the city has its own rhythm, personality, and a few surprises. So in this Reykjavik travel guide, I'll show you what is actually worth doing, what might disappoint you, how much it really costs, which mistakes can make your trip more expensive, and whether Reykjavik is truly worth visiting or just a stop before the real Iceland begins. Reykjavik is the capital of Iceland, but it feels much smaller, calmer, and more personal than most European capitals. It is one of the best places to start an Iceland trip because you can walk around easily, stay comfortable in the city, and use it as a practical base for the Golden Circle, the South Coast, lagoons, waterfalls, and Northern Lights tours. What makes Reykjavik special is this contrast: colorful Nordic streets, a peaceful oceanfront, creative local culture, and wild Icelandic nature just a short drive away. Let's start with the best places to visit in Reykjavik. The most iconic place is Hallgrímskirkja church, which almost feels like a modern Viking cathedral rising above the city. And from there you can walk straight to Rainbow Street, one of the most colorful streets in Reykjavik. Harpa Concert Hall is another must-see, with its glass design reflecting the sky, the sea, and the constantly changing Icelandic weather. I also really enjoyed the Old Harbour, because it gives Reykjavik that coastal city feeling, with boats, seafood restaurants, whale-watching tours, and a more relaxed atmosphere. Tjörnin Lake is great for a calm walk close to the center, while Austurvöllur is one of the main squares of the city, surrounded by important buildings, cafes, and local life. Laugavegur Street is the main shopping and walking street, full of restaurants, bars, souvenir shops, street art, and that small but lively city energy. Ingólfstorg is another central square where you can feel the local rhythm of Reykjavik, especially when events or seasonal activities are happening. Along the waterfront, the Sun Voyager is one of the most photographed landmarks in the city, with the ocean and mountains behind it. And if you want one of the most relaxing experiences near Reykjavik, Sky Lagoon is a perfect place to end the day, with warm geothermal water, ocean views, and a peaceful Icelandic atmosphere. When it comes to the best things to do in Reykjavik, the first thing is simply walking around the city center without rushing. Reykjavik works better when you slow down. Walk through Laugavegur, Rainbow Street, the Old Harbour, and the waterfront, stop for coffee, check small shops, and enjoy the calm Nordic atmosphere. You can also join experiences like Sky Lagoon, whale watching from the Old Harbour, Northern Lights tours, local food stops, cafe hopping, and day trips to the Golden Circle or South Coast. For me, Sky Lagoon was one of the most relaxing experiences near the city because the warm geothermal water, ocean view, and cold Icelandic air make it feel like more than just a spa. Whale watching can also be memorable, but nature is never guaranteed, so the boat trip itself should be part of the experience. The same goes for Northern Lights tours. Reykjavik is a practical starting point, especially if you don't rent a car. But seeing the aurora always depends on weather, clouds, solar activity, and luck. Because my time in Iceland was limited this time, I planned the whole trip around Reykjavik and stayed for 3 days. I spent my first full day exploring Reykjavik itself, walking around the city center, visiting the main spots, and feeling the atmosphere of the capital. For the other 2 days, I wanted to travel faster, more comfortably and more efficiently, so I explored the Golden Circle and the South Coast with a private tour from Glacigo, a local day tour company in Iceland. Most travelers arrive in Reykjavik through Keflavik International Airport, which is about 45 to 50 minutes from the city center. We used Flybus, one of the easiest and more budget-friendly options, but you can also choose a private transfer, taxi, or rental car if you want more comfort and flexibility. Inside Reykjavik, there are bikes, electric scooters, and public transport options, but honestly, the city center is very easy to explore on foot. For places outside the city like the Golden Circle, the South Coast, or Northern Light spots, you will need either a rental car or a day tour or private tour company like Go. For the best areas to stay in Reykjavik, I think downtown Reykjavik or the city center is the most practical choice, especially if it is your first time. You can walk easily to the main streets, restaurants, cafes, and tour pickup points. Laugavegur is great if you want to be close to shopping, food, bars, and the livelier side of the city, while the Old Harbour area is better if you prefer a calmer atmosphere near the sea and close to whale watching tours. I stayed at the Swan House, an Airbnb-style apartment by Himalaya Group, for around 190 euros per night, and honestly, I was very happy with both the location and the comfort. Now let's talk about travel costs, because this is where many people get surprised. Iceland is definitely not cheap, and if you don't plan carefully, your budget can disappear very quickly. For accommodation, we paid around 190 euros per night for 2 people, which was not cheap, but the central location and comfort made it worth it for us. A coffee usually costs around 5 to 6 euros, and simple meals like fish and chips or a burger were around 25 euros. A mid-range meal can easily cost 50 to 60 euros, and a proper dinner with a starter, main course and dessert can go over 100 euros per person. Because eating out is expensive, we did grocery shopping for 3 days and paid around 80 euros for 2 people, which allowed us to have breakfast and some dinners at home. If we had eaten breakfast and dinner outside every day, we would probably have spent at least 250 to 300 euros for 2 people. For transportation, flybus from Keflavik Airport to Reykjavik and back costs around 66 euros per person. Group day tours to the Golden Circle or South Coast are usually around 100 to 120 euros per person, while private tours with companies like Go can cost around 1000 to 1200 euros per vehicle for up to 4 people. I personally preferred Go for more comfort and flexibility. Whale watching tours from the Old Harbour are around 90 euros, and Sky Lagoon starts from around 120 euros per person, so Reykjavik is a destination where you should know your priorities before booking everything. When it comes to food in Reykjavik and Iceland, fish and chips was honestly one of my favorites, and for me, Iceland has some of the best fish and chips in the world. You should also try the tomato soup at Fridheimar, langoustine as one of Iceland's iconic dishes, and lamb dishes like lamb chops, which are usually very flavorful and high quality. For a casual lunch, prime beef burgers are a great option, and besides many restaurants around the city, Postus Food Hall and Bar in the center is a practical place where you can find different food cultures under one roof. But before you plan your Reykjavik trip, there are a few mistakes that can make the city feel much more expensive, tiring, and disappointing than it actually is. The first mistake is thinking Reykjavik is only a place to sleep before exploring the rest of Iceland, because the city itself has enough atmosphere, food, culture, and easy experiences to deserve at least one proper day. The second mistake is underestimating the costs, because accommodation, restaurants, airport transfers, tours, and even simple meals add up very quickly. I also wouldn't recommend planning every breakfast, lunch, and dinner outside, because eating out in Reykjavik is expensive, and even a small grocery shopping can save you a lot of money. Another common mistake is underestimating the weather. In Iceland, wind, rain, cold, road conditions, and daylight can change your plans very quickly, especially outside the city. Many travelers also think the northern lights are guaranteed, but even with the tour, everything depends on cloud cover, solar activity, weather conditions, and luck. And finally, don't squeeze too many places into a short trip, because Iceland looks close on the map, but distances, weather, stops, and daylight can make your itinerary much more tiring than expected. For Reykjavik, my first essential travel tip is to stay as central as possible. If your time is limited, being close to downtown, Reykjavik, Laugavegur, and the main pickup points makes everything easier. Iceland's currency is the Icelandic krona, or ISK, but card payment is very common, so you don't really need to carry a lot of cash. For internet, I used Yesim as my travel eSIM, which made the trip much easier because I could use maps, messages, and tour communication without worrying about Wi-Fi. For entry, Iceland is part of the Schengen area, so EU and Schengen travelers can enter easily, while many visitors from the US and UK can usually visit visa-free for short tourist trips. But always check the latest rule for your passport before traveling. I also recommend booking important experiences like Sky Lagoon, whale watching, Northern Lights tours, and day trips in advance, especially in busy seasons. If you want to explore beyond Reykjavik without renting a car, day tours or private tours are the most practical option, and I personally chose Glasgow for the Golden Circle and South Coast, and was very happy with the comfort, flexibility, and overall experience. So, is Reykjavik worth visiting? Honestly, if you expect a big, dramatic European capital, Reykjavik may feel small, quiet, and expensive. But if you see it as the gateway to Iceland, then it makes perfect sense. It is safe, walkable, comfortable, and one of the best places to base yourself if you want to explore the Golden Circle, the South Coast, Sky Lagoon, Northern Lights, and some of Iceland's most unforgettable nature experiences. For me, Reykjavik was not just a stopover, it was the practical and peaceful starting point that made this Iceland trip much easier, warmer, and more enjoyable. Reykjavik may not be the wildest part of Iceland, but it can make the whole trip feel more comfortable, organized, and complete. If you are planning your own trip, you can check the links in the description for travel deals, useful services, and special discounts I arranged for you. And this is just the beginning, because more videos from my Iceland travel series are coming next, including detailed guides about the Golden Circle, the South Coast, and whether you really need to rent a car in Iceland.